for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
My name is Jack Prince. I am your fellow co-host.
Jack, we've got quite a bit to talk about today. We got to talk about what's happening with the Kurds in Syria and Turkey. We got to talk about what's happening with Trump and the impeachment and the Ukrainian stuff. And we've got 2 Hammer Time Awards to issue today. And before we get to all of that, a reminder that you can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime you like at Spreaker.com. Do a search for Southpaws there. You can listen to us at the iTunes Store. Do a search under podcast for Southpaws. Find our logo and you found us. And, of course, you can listen on Pacifica radio stations across the country, including KCEI-FM Taos, New Mexico, KZGM Kabul, Missouri, and on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Monday night at 9 p.m. We're on right after Democracy Now! Make sure you check us out there as well. So, boy, did Trump really screw over the Kurds in Syria. I mean, really, that's the best way to put it. He screwed them over.
Well, his foreign policy is a map of an idiot, but he's not the first president to screw over the Kurds.
No, of course not. He's just the latest and the greatest, and he thinks that he's God Almighty, or we'll get to that when we get into our Hammer Time segment today.
But this is going to result in innocent people. It already has being slaughtered.
Exactly. Now,
I think that people need to realize just how foolish this was. I'm talking about quotes from our senator from Kentucky and South
McConnell.
Carolina.
Yeah, and
Lindsey Graham, who came out, and I'm paraphrasing, said this is the biggest mistake this president has made, which is like pulling a grain of sand out of the ocean. But nonetheless, this mistake, the Republicans know, is absolutely foolhardy. And we're going to have people theorize this was done to take the spotlight off of what, ladies and gentlemen? Which we're also going to speak about in this program today?
Impeachment. Of course. This is what it is.
Yeah.
Sleight of hand. Here, pay attention to what's going on over here instead of what's going on in my administration.
You know what's incredible, Darren? There's nothing that he wouldn't do, even foolish things. Nothing he wouldn't do to keep from being impeached, or even the conversation of impeachment.
Well,
the sociopath, it's like garlic to a vampire. He can't stand it. He has not been able to stand it since the nation has had the audacity to challenge his presidency. This is a man still thinking he has the largest crowd in U.S. history at his inauguration.
Yeah, of
this
course.
is a guy this is a slice of reality. He can't look at it. Mm-hmm. So to start a war or to stop a war or to put the Kurds in harm's way, this is insignificant to him.
Yeah. I have this. This is from CBS News. This is dated October 11th. This is out of Qamishli, Syria. The United Nations says 70,000 people in northern Syria have been forced to flee because of Turkey's assault on U.S.-backed Kurdish forces. Turkish warplanes and artillery blasted targets across the Syria border Friday on the third day of the offensive. The city of Qamishli, I should say, in northern Syria is a very important city for the Kurdish population that, according to CBS News correspondent Charlie D'Agata, it sort of serves as their administrative center, but it's only about a mile and a half from the Turkish border, which means it's vulnerable to airstrikes, artillery, and mortars. A couple of nights ago, the city came under a mortar attack. 3 mortars slammed into the neighborhood, killing 1 person on the spot. 2 people were injured and are now fighting for their lives in a hospital. This kind of random violence in the area has sparked a mass exodus of Qamishli. There was a bottleneck Thursday on the main road leading south, away from Turkish airstrikes and mortar attacks. Families didn't want to take a chance with their young children on attacks like this. The Turkish government has defended its military operation, saying it's clearing the area of terrorists. But more and more, it's starting to look like a campaign of ethnic cleansing, forcing the local Kurdish population away from cities and villages. Instead, they're putting in place many Syrian Arabs who sought refuge in Turkey, people who don't come from the region. That has now been a point of discussion not only among the local population but also among the international community. You know what? This just popped in my head, Jack. Doesn't this sound a lot like plopping Jews in what's now Israel?
Mm-hmm.
And now they're trying to force out the remaining Arab population in the Gaza and the West Bank?
Oh, yeah.
You know, this history repeats itself, folks. This is just more ethnic cleansing. It really is.
What should bring a chill of fear down your back, listeners, is that we have Donald Trump, literally a madman, who's got his hands on the global political chessboard, playing it away a madman would. And we ain't seen nothing yet, particularly if the noose gets tighter around his neck on this impeachment.
Of course. Matter of fact, let's just get right into it.
Before we get to that impeachment, I would like to add the World Socialist Web's viewpoint of how completely panicked Trump is, because he made an admission in the firestorm of this impeachment and his policy being challenged by his own Republicans. We have people jumping the ship, but I want to read this because I think this gives us a unique perspective.
And what's the date on that article? Because
October the 10th, 2019. Okay.
Yep.
Amid the storm of denunciations extending from the right-wing Republicans to the Democratic Party, the New York Times and the pseudo-left Jacobin magazine of his decision to pull U.S. troops out of Syria, President Trump issued an extraordinary tweet on Wednesday in defense of his policy. Trump's Twitter account has dominated the U.S. news cycle ever since he took office. Okay, tweets have introduced fascistic new policies on immigration. He's announced the frequent firings of White House personnel, cabinet members, and he's signaled shifts in U.S. policy. However, last month, amid the mounting of an impeachment inquiry, which the Democratic leadership in Congress has focused exclusively on national security, concerns stemming from Trump's July 25 phone call with Ukrainian President Zelensky, the U.S. president has set a new personal record with 800 tweets. Now, he's been in conflict his entire presidency, Darren. Mm-hmm. There's been issue after issue. But this 800 tweets represent a man who has lost his confidence. And the Republicans behind him as well have. It gets worse. The corporate media, of course, has chosen to ignore Trump's tweet on the protracted U.S. military intervention in the Middle East. Okay?
Yeah.
It amounts to an official admission, the tweet that we're going to talk about here, from the U.S. government, that successive U.S. administrations are responsible for war crimes resulting in mass murder. Trump acknowledged that Washington launched the 2003 invasion of Iraq on the false premise of weapons of mass destruction. In other words, the administration of George W. Bush lied to the people of the United States, the entire planet, in order to facilitate a war of aggression.
Yeah.
Under international law, and this ties in with our later segment today with Ellen and Bush holding hands, this war was a criminal action and patently unjustified violation of Iraq's sovereignty. We have had a president admit that we went to war in 2003 for a lie.
Yeah.
That's the first president to do that, to wave the false flag. He did this in defense of himself. Nobody is safe when he gets cornered. Not Giuliani, not Barr, not Pompeo, not his daughters, nobody. Not the entire population of the world. We're all in jeopardy. He'll throw anybody under the bus, including start a global war if he has to. He just put a president, implicated a president, with this tweet that we've already done things clandestinely. And it goes on. I want to move on to some other areas. He even goes on into more elaboration of false flag engagements, as if he was Noam Chomsky, for crying out loud, that the United States have initiated. Mm-hmm. He's doing that because he knows his hand now has been caught pushing the Russians to his side, not then Ukraine. So what's his defense? No, we'll get George Bush out. We'll show you what he did. Keep going. Keep going, Trump. Give him a little rope. He'll hang them all.
It's like a little naughty kid that got caught with his hand in the cookie jar, and he points over to his brother. Well, Johnny got cookies too. Yep. Well, we're not talking about what Johnny did. We're talking about what you did. And that's everybody does that, Jack, and it's I don't know the words for it. But God, this is supposed to be a grown adult acting like a little child. I should show you the meme that I showed my mom earlier this week. It's somebody put Trump's head on a baby and put Mitch McConnell's head on the father. Oh, don't worry, I won't let them impeach you. Yeah, you got to see this. I'll put that. You know what? I'll put that up on our Facebook page. If you go to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show, we'll have that meme up at some point.
But he's enlisted Trey Gowdy. Is that his name?
Brother,
to be his impeachment defender. We're in a world of hurt. But let's just wrap this thing up. He's not the first president to throw the Kurds literally under the bus physically. All right. Mm-hmm. We had a slaughter in the Mideast caused by lies. Recent estimates of death toll in Iraq resulting from 16 years of U.S. military intervention in Iraq range as high as $2.4 million. I don't have to tell you the trillions of dollars. I don't have to tell you about the 4,500 U.S. troops killed, 4,000 contractors killed, on and on and on it goes. It may be the most ridiculous foreign policy move ever made by the United States, threatening the existence of the whole world. And Trump knows it. And Trump says, hey, you ain't seen nothing yet. Mine's not that bad because look at Bush's.
Mm-hmm. This is just unbelievable. I want to get to this since we're going to go right into Trump and all the stuff with Ukraine and associates of Giuliani getting arrested trying to leave the country. I want to play this. This is video from CNN. We have the audio of it. These are reporters asking Senator Cory Gardner, Republican of Colorado, whether it's appropriate for Donald Trump to ask a foreign leader to investigate a political rival. This runs just over 2 minutes. See if he actually answers the question.
Do you believe it's appropriate for the President of the United States to ask a foreign leader to investigate a political rival? Yes or no?
Well, look, this is what we're going to get into. The Senate Intelligence Committee is having an investigation, a bipartisan investigation. Unfortunately, though, what we've seen is a very political process take over. If you look what Al Green in Texas, member of Congress, has said, we need to impeach President Trump now because we might not be able to beat him in November. That's about politics. That's not what the serious investigation should be about.
But is it appropriate?
Joe, I've answered your question.
No, you didn't. Is it a yes?
Is it a yes or no?
Well, here's what we see in the House of Representatives. You see a very partisan process taking place. Why is it that when you all do stories or we see reports in the news, it's about 4 states? Colorado, Arizona, Maine, and North Carolina. Seems to be about politics and elections other than the serious process that it is.
But the question is it appropriate for a president
Look, I think we are going to have an investigation, and it's a nonpartisan investigation.
But Senator,
it's a nonpartisan investigation. It's an answer that you get from a very serious investigation.
But would you be okay with it if it was a Democrat asking a foreign government?
Look, here's what we're doing. What we saw immediately was a jump to a very partisan, serious use of a tool in the Constitution. This is about an investigation that's taking place at the Senate Intelligence Committee. That's where it should be. What we've seen from the House of Representatives and Nancy Pelosi is a very partisanized effort. What other reason do you have to cover 4 states every time you do a story on this? It's about Colorado. It's about California. It's about North Carolina and Arizona. That's what you're saying over and over again in all these stories.
Is it okay
so this is a serious time. A very serious investigation. Let's have that investigation.
Is it okay for you to ask?
Look, you know what I have said before. You know what I've said before. This is about.
Answering the question. We want to hear from you.
Look,
you're a smart guy. You know the debate.
This is about the politics of the moment, and that's why they're trying to do this now. Look, the American people are going to have a choice in an election coming up. They're going to see this very transparent, I hope, investigation. But right now, what you're seeing is Nancy Pelosi and the House of Representatives trying to drive a very partisan process, and I'm not going to fall into that before we get all of the facts and we see the results of a serious, nonpartisan investigation.
Wow. Boy, talk about somebody twisting themselves in knots to avoid answering the question.
He did.
It is a simple yes or no. Is it okay for a sitting U.S. president to ask a foreign country to investigate a political rival? Yes or no? and he never answered the question.
If you